Warning, this knowledge has been forbidden for decades. Why don't the elites want you to discover this power that lies dormant within you? Attention, you are 3 minutes away from discovering the secret that can change everything in your life. Did you know there's an infinite power within you that is being deliberately hidden? For centuries, spiritual masters have guarded this knowledge under lock and key. Secret societies have protected this information with their very lives, and there's a reason for that. This knowledge can be dangerous in the wrong hands, but today, for the first time, you will discover the hidden power that billionaires use to manifest unlimited wealth. The secret that great leaders know about connecting with the infinite, the forbidden technique that can transform your reality in 24 hours. Why 99% of people never access this power, and how you can be different. But beware, this is not knowledge for just anyone. If you're not prepared to take complete responsibility for your life, stop watching now. If you don't have the courage to leave your comfort zone, this video is not for you. But if you feel you were born for something greater, if you have the sensation that there's a dormant power within you waiting to be awakened, available for the last 48 hours only. This knowledge is being shared for a limited time only. Powerful forces don't want this information to spread. Don't miss this unique opportunity to discover who you really are. Click now and discover the infinite power that exists within you and how to awaken it in 21 days. Watch now before it's too late. P.S. People who discovered this secret report, dramatic changes in their lives. Coincidence? You decide. Infinite life and power. Man possesses infinite life and power if only he knew it. Unlimited power. This power is of the spirit, therefore it is unconquerable. Imagine for a moment. Within you exists a force more powerful than any technology, more vast than all the oceans, brighter than all the stars in the universe. This force knows no limits, recognizes no obstacles, does not bow before external circumstances. It is the power that moves planets in their orbits, that makes the heart beat, that transforms a seed into a majestic tree. It is not the power of ordinary life, that which you use to move objects, solve daily problems, or influence people around you. It is not our finite will, always struggling against limitations and frustrations. It is not our human mind, brilliant as it may be, but still confined to the limits of logic and past experience. This power transcends all these things because, being spiritual, it is of a higher order than both the physical and the mental. It is like comparing a flickering candle with the radiant sun. Both produce light, but one is infinitely greater than the other. Physical power can move mountains with machines, but it becomes exhausted. Mental power can solve complex problems, but encounters barriers. But spiritual power, this reshapes reality itself. It does not merely act upon the world. It is the source from which the world emerges. When you access this power, you are no longer limited by the laws that govern ordinary matter. You are no longer trapped by the limitations your conscious mind imposes. You become a channel through which the universe itself expresses its creative will. It is as if you discovered that you are not just a drop in the ocean, but that the entire ocean flows through you. This power remains dormant and hidden within man until he is sufficiently evolved and developed to be entrusted with its use. Thought is a spiritual power of tremendous potency, but it is not the power of which we speak. Through thought, man can either elevate himself and connect with the powerhouse of the universe, or completely cut himself off from the divine inflow. His thought is his greatest weapon because, through it, he can either draw from the infinite or separate himself in consciousness, but not in reality, from his divine source. Through the divine spark within him, which is really his true self, man is connected with the infinite. Divine life and power are his if he realizes that they are his. As long as he remains ignorant of his oneness with the divine source of all life, he is incapable of appropriating the power that is truly his. If, however, he enters into this inner knowledge, he finds himself possessor of infinite power and unlimited resources. This power, then, is God's, yet it is also man's. But it is not revealed to him until he is fit to be entrusted with it. It is only when man realizes his oneness with his divine source that he becomes filled with its power. Many teachers lament the fact that certain secrets are being spread broadcast today. Secrets that in the past were kept closely guarded. They fear that unilluminated and unevolved people may make destructive use of spiritual power. This, to the writer, appears to be improbable. It is true that strong personalities who have great belief in their own power to achieve and succeed draw unconsciously on hidden powers and thus are able to raise themselves high above their fellows. The use, however, that they can make of spiritual power for base purposes is limited and is not to be feared. There are others, of course, who are misusing their powers. These are black magicians, and while they may do a certain amount of harm, they become reduced ultimately to beggary and impotence. There are also others who spend the whole of their spare time searching for knowledge of this very subject. They read every occult book they can lay hands on, but they never find that for which they seek. There are spiritual powers and influences that withhold the eyes of the seekers from seeing until they are ready for the revelation. When man in his search for truth has given up all selfish striving after unworthy things and has ceased to use his self-will in conflict with the greater will of the whole, he is ready for the revelation of his oneness with the infinite. Yielding implicitly to the will of the whole may seem to the unillumined an act of weakness, yet it is the entrance to a life of almost boundless power. Man is not separate from his divine source and never has been. He is in reality one with the infinite. The separation which he feels and experiences is mental and is due to his blindness and unbelief. Man can never be separated from spirit, for he himself is spirit. He is an integral part of one complete whole. He lives and moves and has his being in God, and God dwells in him. The majority of people are unaware of this intimate relationship with the divine, and because they are unaware, or because they refuse to believe it, they are in one sense separated from the inner life of God. Yet this separation is only in their thoughts and beliefs, and not in reality. Man is not separated and never can be. This is an absolute and immutable truth of the universe. Just as a wave cannot be truly separated from the ocean, for it is the ocean itself taking temporary form, you cannot be separated from the source of all existence. The connection is intrinsic, permanent, unbreakable. However, here lies the great paradox of human experience. While he believes he is separate and alone, he will be as weak and helpless as if he truly were. His beliefs become the invisible walls of his prison. His limited perception becomes the measure of his reality. It's like a prince who, having lost his memory, lives as a beggar in the streets, completely unaware of his true identity and the treasures that belong to him by right. This illusion of separation is the root of all human suffering. From it are born fear, anxiety, the sense of inadequacy, the desperate search for external approval, fierce competition with others. When you believe you are alone in a cold and indifferent universe, every challenge seems an existential threat. Every failure confirms your smallness. Every success of others awakens envy and insecurity. But then happens the miracle of inner revelation. As soon as man perceives the truth of his relationship with the infinite, he passes from weakness to power, from death to life. This is not a gradual change. It is an instantaneous and radical transformation of perception. It is as if you had lived your entire life in a dark basement and suddenly someone turned on all the lights of the universe. One moment he is in the desert, and what an arid desert this is. Walking without direction under the scorching sun of doubt, with lips parched by thirst for purpose, feet wounded by the sharp stones of rejection, heart heavy with the burden of insignificance. Distant from any oasis of hope, too weak to continue, separated from any source of strength, alone with his fears and limitations. In the next instant, revelation explodes in his consciousness like a glorious dawn. He perceives, not with the mind, but with his entire being, that he is nothing less than a son of God with all the privileges and powers of sonship. He is no longer the beggar asking for crumbs at life's door, but the legitimate heir to all the wealth of the cosmos. With this realization comes a complete transformation of identity. Fear dissolves, because who can threaten a son of the infinite? Scarcity disappears, because how can there be lack when all the abundance of the universe is your inheritance? Loneliness becomes impossible, because now he knows he was never alone. He was merely temporarily blind to the constant presence of the divine. The privileges of sonship include direct access to the throne of grace, authority over life's circumstances, and the inalienable right to live in the fullness of divine potential. The powers of sonship include the ability to transcend apparent limitations, to manifest resources when needed, and to radiate light in the midst of darkness. This transformation changes nothing externally at first, but changes absolutely everything internally. And by changing internally, the external world inevitably reorganizes itself to reflect this new inner reality. He realizes in a flash that he is one with his divine source and can never be separated. He also awakens to the fact that all the power of the infinite is his to draw upon, that he can never truly fail, that he is marching on to victory. Thus will be seen how great is the power of man's thought. While thought is not the power of the spirit, it is the power by which man either connects himself with the infinite power, opening himself to the divine inflow, or cuts himself off and separates himself from his spiritual source. Thus, in a sense, man is what he thinks he is. If he thinks he is separate from God and cut off from his power, then it is as though this were really the case, and he is just as impotent and miserable as though he actually existed apart from God. On the other hand, if he thinks and believes that he is one with the infinite, he finds that it is gloriously true and that he is really a son of God. If he believes and thinks that he is a mere material being, then he lives the limited life of a material being and is never able to rise above it. But if, on the contrary, he thinks and believes that he is a spiritual being, then he finds that he possesses all the powers of a spiritual being. Again, if he thinks that his work is difficult and that he is not equal to his tasks, he finds that really his tasks are difficult and beyond his powers. Yet on the other hand, if he believes his work is easy, or at any rate, within his powers, he finds that such is the case, and that he can do his work with ease. The inner power is infinite, for by faith in it, man is directly coupled up with the spiritual power of the universe. Imagine a conducting wire connecting a small lamp to the world's greatest power plant. The lamp does not produce the energy. It simply allows the energy to flow through it. In the same way, you are not the source of power, but the perfect channel through which infinite power expresses itself. The divine spark within him connects him to the sacred flame, making him potentially a god in the making. This spark is not metaphor, it is a tangible spiritual reality. It is as if each human being carried a fragment of the original light of creation, a microscopic but genuine portion of divine essence. This spark is always present, always connected, always pulsing with the same frequency as the universal source. But understand the magnitude of this truth. You are not merely connected to the divine, you are divine in your deepest essence. The difference between you and divinity is not one of nature, but of degree of realization. It is like the difference between a drop of water from the ocean and the entire ocean. Both are water, both share the same essence, but one has not yet awakened to its true magnitude. A change then must take place within man before he can enter into his divine inheritance. This change is not merely intellectual or emotional, it is a complete revolution of consciousness. It is an inner rebirth that transforms not only what you think, but how you think, not only what you feel, but how you perceive reality itself. He must learn to think after the spirit, as a spiritual being, instead of after the flesh, as a material creature. To think after the flesh means to be constantly concerned with limitations. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. Circumstances are against me. Time is running out. It is a mentality of scarcity, fear, and survival. To think after the spirit is completely different. It is to recognize that you operate from a dimension where resources are infinite, where solutions always exist, where time is your ally, where every challenge is simply a disguised opportunity to demonstrate your inner power. It is a mentality of abundance, faith, and conscious creation. This transformation of thought is like learning a completely new language, the language of the impossible made possible. Instead of asking, how can this work out? You begin to declare, this is already working perfectly in the spiritual realm. Now it manifests in the physical. Instead of fearing the future, you embrace it with joyful expectation, knowing you are co-creating with the universe itself. Like the prodigal son, he must come to himself and leave the husks and the swine in the far country. What far country is this where so many live? It is the country of limited consciousness, where you feed on the husks, cheap substitutes for true spiritual nourishment. They are the husks of external approval when you could have divine approval, the husks of temporary pleasure when you could have eternal joy, the husks of material success when you could have spiritual fulfillment. The swine represent the thoughts and habits that degrade your true nature. They are the mental patterns that keep you crawling when you should be flying. They are the toxic beliefs that poison your self-esteem when you should be celebrating your inherent divinity. But the moment of awakening comes when he finally comes to himself. It is when you suddenly realize, I don't belong here. This is not my true condition. I have an inheritance waiting for me. It is like waking from a nightmare and realizing it was all illusion. Returning to his Father's house, where there is bread of life enough and to spare. The Father's house is not a distant place in heaven. It is the state of consciousness where you recognize your true identity. The bread of life is spiritual nourishment that completely satisfies. It is wisdom, it is love, it is power, it is peace, it is joy, it is purpose, it is fullness. And there is not just enough, there is overflowing abundance. In the Father's house, there is no competition because there are infinite resources for all. There is no fear because you are under divine protection. There is no loneliness because you live in constant union with universal love. There is no lack of purpose because each day brings new opportunities to express your divine nature. See, in your life, exactly where you are now, with all your current circumstances, all your present challenges, you have infinite life, infinite power, if you connect your spirit to the divine source. It is not something you need to conquer, deserve, or develop over years. It is something that is already yours by divine birthright. The only thing that stands between you and this reality is your own belief in separation. Dissolve this belief and all the power of the universe flows through you. Accept your true identity, and all limitations become temporary illusions. Recognize your inherent connection with the divine, and discover that there was never a problem without a solution, never a need that could not be supplied, never a dream too big to become reality. This is your inheritance, this is your truth, this is your power. The question that remains is only one: when will you claim what is already yours? Infinite gratitude. We have reached the end of another transformative journey together, and my heart overflows with gratitude that you have dedicated this precious time to absorb these teachings about the infinite power that resides within you. If you made it this far, it's because something in your soul recognized the truth in these words. You didn't watch this video by accident. It was the divine spark within you that brought you here. And this moves me deeply. You are part of this mission. Every person who watches, every like, every share is not just a statistic. It's a soul awakening to its true nature. It's someone who chose to leave the darkness of spiritual ignorance and walk toward the light of eternal wisdom. The power of your like now, I need your help for a greater mission. If this message touched your heart, if something within you resonated with these truths, I humbly ask that you click the like button. Why is the like so important? Let me explain. With every like you give, YouTube understands that this content is valuable and needs to be delivered to 10 more people who are seeking exactly this transformation. Think about this for a moment. With a simple touch of your finger, you can be the instrument for 10 more souls to discover the infinite power that exists within them. You can be the bridge between someone and their spiritual transformation. The like costs you nothing, but can mean everything to someone who is lost in the darkness of limitation and needs to awaken to their true divine nature. Subscribe and join the spiritual family. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you from the heart to press the subscribe button and activate the bell so you won't miss any teaching that can transform your life. Each subscription is one more person walking alongside the light, one more soul awakening to their infinite potential. When you subscribe, you're not just following a channel, you're joining a family of seekers of spiritual truth. Share this light, and if this message truly awakens something special in you, share this video with those people you love. It could be that friend who is going through difficulties, that family member who has lost hope, that special person who needs to discover the treasure they carry within themselves. Sharing is not just dividing a link. It's planting seeds of transformation in others' lives. It's being an instrument of light on someone's path. It's actively participating in the elevation of human consciousness. I count on you. I count on you, my dear brother or sister, on this spiritual journey. I count on your consciousness, on your open heart, on your genuine desire to see a better world where more people discover their infinite power. Together we are stronger. Together we can illuminate more lives. Together we can awaken more souls to their true divine nature. Infinite blessings. May the light you awaken today continue shining intensely in your life. May you always remember who you truly are, an infinite, powerful being connected to the very source of creation. May your next 24 hours be filled with magical synchronicities. May your thoughts align with universal abundance, and may you feel the constant presence of the divine walking beside you. Stay with God, remain in the light, and until the next video, where we will continue together this extraordinary journey toward our true spiritual greatness. Don't forget, help 10 more people find this message, subscribe, join our spiritual family, share, be an instrument of transformation. Your soul thanks you. The universe thanks you. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. See you soon.